How's it going, everyone? It's Foxxy here with a review of History Channel's Civil War Secret Missions. The game is called Secret Missions because all of the missions that you take part in are covert operations that don't actually take place on the front lines. The game was made by Cauldron back in 2008 and is a sequel to Civil War: A Nation Divided, which I still have yet to play. There's a total of 11 levels in this game that were taken from real-life events such as the Siege of Vicksburg, infiltration of Jackson, and the Great Train Raid of 1861. Also, before each mission, you get a little documentary-style clip that pretty much explains why each mission is important. And since I don't know that much about Civil War at all, it was kinda neat learning some stuff about it, so, I'm all for that. However, the missions themselves were excruciatingly short. The longest level took 17 minutes, while the shortest was, I don't even think, more than 6 minutes. And it took me a total of 97 minutes to beat the entire game. It's probably the shortest first-person shooter game I think I've ever played before. I guess I could have given the game a tiny bit of leeway if they had a multiplayer, because some companies seem to focus more on that than the single player, which annoys me too, but there is no multiplayer, so it's not like they have any fucking excuse at all as to why the game is so ungodly short. Also, what's really off-putting to me is just how some of the levels end. Take a look at this. Yeah, that's it. No cutscene, no dialogue, nothing. Just what the fuck? And moving on to the graphics, they're not good at all. It's very mediocre. The guns look pretty well done and all, but the character models, buildings, and just pretty much everything else look very bland and boring. It's almost like they didn't even take the time to put much effort into making the game look decent, which is kind of sad. Although I must say, a few of the levels are actually not that bad looking in terms of the layouts, but majority of the time it was just very meh. There is something actually rather hilarious about the graphics too. In one of the later levels, there's like a couple spots where you can look and see the war going on from a distance. Yeah, I really don't know what to make of it other than holy shit. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the sound either. I mean, the explosions, the guns sound alright. The orchestra music that plays in the menus and during the game is actually pretty well done. I enjoy that. But the acting is very, well, I guess it's not ungodly bad, but it's below par, I'd say. Then again, I really wasn't expecting the acting to be something amazing to begin with, but that doesn't really matter. What is very annoying is that your soldiers during battle will say like the same things over and over again to the point where it makes it seem like your allies only say maybe at max 5 different things. Another thing that's irritating to me is the subtitles. Not only can you not turn them off, but they had to make it the most annoying looking subtitles I've probably ever seen. Right in the middle of the fucking screen with a giant black bar behind it. Why wouldn't they have just put it towards the bottom of the screen like in most games? Or at the very least, have the goddamn option to turn them off? Is that so much to ask? I mean, they put the effort to add them. Why not give the option to get rid of them? Better question is, why am I so annoyed by this? I have no idea. Alright, so moving on. Before I discuss the gameplay, let's talk a little about the control in this game. And other than the actual gameplay, I think this is the most important parts of the game that could either make it or break it, especially with first-person shooters. Secret Missions has this thing, and granted, there are quite a bit of shooters that do this, but they made it so that when you turn, it goes slow for about like a quarter second, then speeds up very fast. This makes moving and aiming your weapons very annoying. Even though there's other shooters that have worse controls than this game, it's still not good at all. I'm not going to give it a pass because the controls suck less in this game than some other game. I'm thinking that the controls on the PC are probably miles better because I don't think they would have added the whole slow to fast aiming thing while you're using like a mouse. Then again, I wouldn't know because I'm not a PC gamer. Besides that, you're able to not only aim down the sights with L2, but you can peek around the corners and objects with L1. I don't really use or like this feature much, but I'm sure there's others out there who do. Side note, I heard that PC gamers use this peeking around corners thing in shooters much more often than console gamers, but I don't know if that's true at all. I think that's more of a myth. Having said all that, let's move on to the final thing I want to talk about, that being the gameplay. There's actually quite a bit of variety in terms of the weapons. You can find, I believe, around 10 different guns, from repeating rifles down to a musket, a shotgun, and a couple snipers. So even for a Civil War game, I was pretty happy with the weapon variety, and it's not like I favored one gun over the other. Obviously, the repeating rifles are better because, well, you don't have to reload after every shot, but I kinda enjoyed using the muskets for some reason. However, there's been more than a couple times where I can't even tell if I'm hitting anyone. Sometimes what will happen is I'll have the guy lined up in my sights and I'll fire and it's like nothing happens, not even a reaction from the guy. Now I realize that maybe the gun's inaccurate on purpose to reflect realism in a way, which is fine and all, but there's been times where I do actually hit the guy and he doesn't react. He'll bleed and all, which lets me know that I hit him, but other than that, it's like nothing happens. Now what they could have done to fix this confusion is add the option of like a hit marker type thing that appears on your screen when you hit a guy, or just fix the whole non-reaction thing and that would have been alright too. Another thing that sucked was the AI, specifically the allied AI. It felt like throughout 80% of the game I was by myself with no real help from any of the allies. And even if I had any, they didn't really seem to help at all. It was just like all they did was fire at nothing, not even hitting anyone in the process. Speaking of the AI, what confused me in this game was it takes place during the Civil War, and I understand that it's not the actual battles, but instead covert operations. I get that. However, I don't think I ran into more than 8 enemies during each gunfight at a time. I don't know, it felt so out of place to me. I didn't really feel like I was a part of the war majority of the time I was playing. And I wonder if it's like this on the other Civil War game, A Nation Divided, but I wouldn't know. So the missions themselves, other than being, well, short, felt like I was doing the same thing over and over again, whether it be destroying artillery or blowing whatever else the hell up. There was a couple of missions where it was different. Maybe I had to find stolen documents or help my soldiers move forward by sniping, but generally it was just blowing shit up. At least that's what it felt like. There's also a very strange mission that takes place on a ship, and you have like around 5 minutes to destroy a certain amount of buildings and enemy cannons. The problem I had with this, it felt like just a filler mission. I don't think I ever got shot at one time, and really nothing else happens. Like, a 4-year-old could have beaten this mission without having any sort of problem, it seemed like. Another thing that's kinda odd to me is that you can level up your rank, and each level I guess you get a point that you can use on any of the 4 skills, which increase either health, ammo, health regeneration, or damage. It's odd to me because it just felt so out of place, and not only that, but you don't have any skills right away to choose from. So let's say you just leveled up for the first time. You get 1 skill point, and you can only use it on the 1 skill that's unlocked. So it's like, alright, well, I don't really have a choice on what to pick, so I gotta put it on this. Now, it makes sense if this were to be like an RPG game or something that has like a skill point type system, but it's not. It's a first-person shooter that doesn't really have some sort of RPG type thing to it, like example Borderlands. So, like I said, it's just very out of place to me, and I'm not even sure why they bothered to include this. Now, before I move on to the final thoughts, I want to show you guys something I find fucking hilarious. Now, if you think that quickscoping and no-scoping is bullshit in Call of Duty, let me just show you this. To no-scope in this game, all you really have to do is line up the guy in the middle of your screen and fire. 9 times out of 10 you're going to hit him, and even at super long range. So, to people who bitch about this sort of thing on multiplayer games, primarily Call of Duty, you should be glad it's not like this, so stop fucking whining. Alright, so moving on to my final thoughts. Well, History Channel's Civil War Secret Missions was very poorly executed by Cauldron. They just did such a piss-poor job developing this game. The controls suck, the length of the game is horrendous, and just everything else besides the weapon variety was either very mediocre or, to be blunt, shit. I would love to see a better developer make a Civil War first-person shooter game. I don't care who it is, 2K Games, EA, Codemasters, well, on second thought, maybe not them, but anyone halfway decent make this game. It's not like it would be impossible either. I'm sure that if they take their time making it, it would turn out, pretty damn good. Would I recommend this game? Well, I think by now you'd figure out that it's an obvious no. Unless you want to play Secret Missions for the novelty of playing a Civil War shooter, but other than that, I'd say don't even really bother with it. It's not even worth the hour and a half it takes to beat it.
Oh, and Lieutenant?
Yes, sir?
Next time when you engage the enemy, try and leave more for us.
Will do, sir. You heard the General. We head out in 5 minutes.